I can't tell what's more impressive, the fact that Purdue won the Big Ten tournament or that we predicted one of the potential future matchups.
Given that they nearly blew that lead, I'd say option one.
A win is a win, and all of these people should know. Welcome back to the Kent State Supporters Group. It's your hosts, Aiden McNally and Evan Cummings.
This week on the Sports Show, we update you on some Westfield teams that have played over the past week. Rowan and Adrian discuss their predictions for the big dance, and we'll invite some special guests on to share their picks too. We'll start off with the school sports segment of the show with a new sport to be covered this spring, men's volleyball. In their first official IHSAA game on Saturday, they beat McCussion 3-0.
We're looking for a big year out of them. The boys lacrosse season also started on a bad note last week, losing to Carmel 20-7. Then they followed that with a 7-6 double overtime loss versus Heritage Christian. However, they rebounded Saturday with a win over Northridge 9-4 at home. Girls lacrosse played versus Noblesville last Tuesday and lost 19-9.
The bright side is there's fresh opportunities for wins by almost every spring sport this week. Tuesday is packed with action. Boys lacrosse hosts Cathedral, girls lacrosse travels to Bishop Chatard, and boys volleyball hosts Lafayette Jefferson.
Wednesday sees the boys volleyball team open up conference play at home versus Franklin Central, as well as an inter-squad scrimmage in baseball. On Thursday, we're looking at boys volleyball playing again at this time at HSE. Also on Thursday, girls lacrosse with Guerin Catholic for an exciting matchup, and both baseball and softball have scrimmages.
The weekend opens up with a boys lacrosse home game versus Park Tudor on Friday. Then there's absolute madness on Saturday. Boys lacrosse hosts Kettle Moraine in the morning. In the afternoon, boys and girls track compete at the blue and white relays, followed later by the girls lacrosse team traveling to Brebeuf to play Louisville Christian. Boys volleyball JV team also is competing at Fishers in an event called March Madness. A lot of teams to go support this weekend.
Here comes my favorite part of the show.
Okay. I'll have to admit, Purdue did something not a lot of people thought they would do.
The team with no 5 stars in their lineup, a lineup consisting of 2 freshman starters, projected outside the top 25 preseason, not only won the Big Ten championship, but they won the tournament too. Oh yeah, and did I mention that they're a 1 seed?
Well done, Boilermakers. Props.
Before we talk about our brackets, here's Adrian and Rowan talking about theirs.
All right, thank you, Evan and Aiden. Now, this is the best time of year. I think we can all agree on that. March Madness. We're going to go over my picks and Adrian's picks. And I want to ask you first off, what is your major upset in the tournament?
Probably Iona over UConn. I put UConn winning, so.
I mean, I think that could definitely be an upset that not a lot of people are talking about. Iona, they have been very dominant in their conference, so I wouldn't be shocked by that. A huge upset I have many actually. I went, all out with this bracket when it comes to upsets. Oral Roberts over Duke.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Now, I think this is the matchup of the century pretty much. Duke, all freshmen pretty much. Duke, young team, a lot of freshmen. Oral Roberts, a lot more experience. And Oral Roberts, they've been dominant all year in the Summit League. I think that could be a great matchup, but I got Oral Roberts with a slight edge due to their experience. Now, who do you think could make a Cinderella run? I think every year we have that Cinderella run. We had it last year with St. Peter's, the year before with Oral Roberts. Who do you think could be that Cinderella that can make a huge run in the tournament?
USC, because they're really good in the Pac-12. Yeah, so.
For sure, they were 3rd in the Pac-12, I believe. My Cinderella, I talked about them earlier, Oral Roberts, and call me crazy, I think they're going to the Final Four. Now hear me out. That region, the East region, a lot can happen there. Marquette, they've been very streaky at times, but overall they're a great team. But I think Oral Roberts can get past that with the experience they have on their roster. Also, not to mention Max Abmas, their leading scorer. He's one of the best scorers in the country. Duke, I think they could definitely beat Oral Roberts. I think whoever wins that matchup goes to the Final Four with how easy that region is.
I think it would probably be a good thing for Duke though, especially with all the really young players. I think they're all starting now, so I don't know.
For sure,
it's really hard to tell.
Yeah, that will be a great matchup. And now, to probably the moment of truth, what is your Final Four and your national champion?
All right, so we've got Xavier versus UCLA. I had UCLA winning, and then we had Alabama versus Tennessee. I had Alabama winning. And for the final, we had Alabama, UCLA winning. Prediction, the winner 72 and the loser 63.
Wow, I mean, talk about not a very similar bracket to mine, but at the same time like a polar opposite. All right, my Final Four. I got Alabama. They've been great all year. Brandon Miller, one of the most dangerous players in the country. And Oral Roberts, like I mentioned earlier, a 12 seed. I get a lot of 2018 Loyola Chicago vibes from them. They are a great team with a great scorer in Max Abmas. Then on the other side of the bracket, I got Houston. Although they won't have Marcus Sasser for the better half of the tournament, if they get him back by the Elite Eight, I think they are going to make a big run. And then also UCLA, a lot of experience on that team. I got UCLA beating Houston. I think they have the upper hand with that. I think Marcus Sasser coming back might be too little too late. Alabama over Oral Roberts. I mean, Alabama, they're one of the deepest teams in the country. Then Alabama, UCLA, we have the same championship. I'm gonna go with Alabama. I think Alabama overall, there's not a lot of flaws with this team. Brandon Miller, a complete double-double machine. Any given night, great player, very dangerous.
I think that it could go either way again, but UCLA, I'm having some faith in them. Tiger Campbell can make a difference this year. He is an undisputed leader, that team this year.
Yeah, great X factor from beyond the arc for sure. They have a UCLA, what I like about them, they have a lot of seniors like Jaime Jaquez and Tiger Campbell, but they also have a really good freshman in Amari Bailey who could get high at the right time, as we saw in the Pac-12 championship game. But overall, I think we did pretty well with our brackets. Can't both be perfect, but mine will probably be perfect.
I don't know about that, but we'll definitely see.
I think we're both looking forward to it. It is the best time of year.
I think we're getting ready for a really good March Madness season.
No doubt. This is the best time of year. Back to you, Evan and Aiden.
That was very insightful. Well, at some points at least. Can't believe Adrian picked UCLA. That's crazy.
Okay, let's break down our brackets. Let's start off with the most important question. Who do you have winning yours and why?
Well, I actually have UCLA winning as well, just like Adrian. I have UCLA winning. They have the easiest path to the championship in probably the whole tournament.
My pick to win the championship is Alabama. They're the #1 overall seed, the top dog. They're just so good on both ends of the court. They are really good at offense, and their defense is actually spectacular. That's one of the best defenses in the country. They're the most complete team in the tournament, and I feel like they'll win. What were some upsets that you had, and did you have any teams making a run further than people expected?
So I actually have Charleston making it to the Sweet 16 to face Bama there. But before that, I have Furman beating Virginia. So I have a Charleston versus Furman, a 12 versus 13 seed matchup in the second round. I also have Oral Roberts and Louisiana meeting in the second round as well, another 12-13 spot. I have Providence upsetting Kentucky, which I wouldn't say is too crazy. Obviously, Kentucky has Oscar, but Providence has had a very great regular season. I have USC upsetting State. I have Providence beating Kansas State in the second round and advancing to the Sweet 16 where they would play Marquette. As many people probably have, I have Oral Roberts making it to the Elite Eight, but I think their road will end there. I have Drake upsetting Miami, Florida. Kennesaw State upsetting Xavier. Xavier coming off of an absolute pounding of a defeat against Marquette.
So I'm gonna go by region. In the South, the first round, I have like no upsets. There's really not much going on there. There's really not much. I have FAU beating Memphis, Oral Roberts obviously beating Duke. I feel like that is the surefire 12-5 matchup that will be the most competitive in the first round, and I feel like Oral Roberts will come out on top. I thought I had Louisiana. Louisiana is a team to watch. I have Providence beating Kentucky because Oscar Tshiebwe can only do so much, and Providence is a more complete team than they are. I have USC beating Michigan State also in the first round. Here in the East region. Michigan State's magic is run out, and I feel like USC is just getting started. They've been hot so far. In the Midwest, there's not really any major upsets. I do have Auburn beating Iowa because that is basically a home game for Auburn. They're playing in Birmingham. Kent State beating IU. You call this bias. I call this Kent State getting hot at the right time. Penn State beating Texas A&M, which Penn State is hot. Coming from a Purdue fan that had a heart attack yesterday watching that Big Ten championship, I give Penn State a lot of props. Jalen Pickett, the shooters on that team are just phenomenal. And then in the West region, there's not really a whole lot of upsets there. I feel like the higher seed in those matchups will get wins there. In the round of 32 now, I have San Diego State beating Virginia, a 5-4 upset. San Diego State has a lot of experience, especially in the tournament, so I feel like they will outlast Virginia. And then Creighton also beating Baylor. I'm high on Creighton this year. We both are.
I have Creighton beating Baylor as well, as long as advancing to the Sweet 16 and upsetting number 2 Arizona.
I have Arizona winning that matchup, but I feel like Baylor is one of these teams that's overseeded. Our guest that we have in the studio today that we will bring in as well. And then in the East region, Oral Roberts beating Tennessee. I have Oral Roberts going a far way in this tournament, and I feel like they have the capability to do so. Providence beating Kansas State. We both have the same matchup. We have I believe the same matchup for the East Championship in Oral Roberts and Marquette, if I'm not mistaken. And then the Midwest, there's not a whole lot of upsets. In the round of 32, the only two that there are, Iowa State beating Xavier. Iowa State, I just have a gut feeling that they're going to make a strong run. Penn State beating Texas. It's one of my crazier picks. Texas, they're coming off a great win in the Big 12 championship, but I feel like their magic and their little Cinderella run that they're having right now will fall a little bit short. In the Sweet 16, again, Alabama and Arizona winning in the South. Oral Roberts will beat Purdue, as much as I hate to say it. We have a tendency to lose to these teams that we should not lose to earlier on in the tournament than we should. Oral Roberts will beat Purdue, and then Marquette will beat Providence. Houston's going to beat Miami, and then Iowa State will beat Penn State. And then UConn will beat Kansas, or the second number 1 seed that I have going down in the tournament is Kansas, and UConn will beat them. I know everyone in the studio right now that's watching is shaking their heads.
UConn's way too inconsistent. If they make it that far in the tournament, they're due for a loss.
They could hold that consistency just a little bit longer for the tournament.
You're right.
So,
are they a championship contender?
No, absolutely not. And then Gonzaga, I have them beating UCLA. I have them beating these two's champions. They're due for a good run in the tournament. They haven't had one in quite some time, like a good, solid, deep run in the tournament. Elite Eight, I have Alabama beating Arizona, Marquette beating Oral Roberts, Houston beating Iowa State, and then Gonzaga beating UConn, and then Alabama beating Marquette, and Gonzaga beating Houston.
I have Texas upsetting Houston. I think Texas is
that's
such
one
a
of my
good
matchups
team.
that I had earlier on in my early brackets.
It's going to be really interesting to see. So Texas and Houston are probably going to meet. Should we say Iowa's more tougher of an opponent than IU? Probably not.
It depends on if Iowa makes it that far.
It depends if Jalen Hood-Schifino is dropping 20 points or 7
That is true.
points.
Now for some guests, or a guest I should say. The only guest that we have today, we were going to have Rylan Crum, but he is not here, so Rylan, you kind of missed your chance on that. But in the studio today, we have Drew Wolf. All right, now Drew, being an IU loyalist, I gotta ask how far you have them making it.
At the end of the day, I just want to remind everyone that this is a rough draft. You know, the brackets have only been out for a day. Everything's subject to change. But right now, I do have the Hoosiers making the Final Four in a great run here. I don't see how anyone is going to be able to stop Trace Jackson Davis in their region. You know, it's a guard-heavy region when you look at it closely, and I don't think anyone's going to be able to stop TJD, thus leading to IU making a good run to the Elite Eight.
Who is your champion?
My champion right now is Kansas State. They're a 3 seed right now. I think they have a very winnable region with Purdue as the 1 seed. No offense to the Boilermakers, but they are the lowest ranked 1. And I don't think Marquette's a great 2 either. So I would say, in my opinion, Kansas might be the strongest team at their best in that region. And I can see the Wildcats making a really good run behind Keontae Johnson.
What were some really big upsets that you had? Like upsets that we're talking about will make people question your validity of any of these picks.
So to start, you referenced this earlier. I do have UC Santa Barbara beating Baylor. That's a 14-3 upset. You know, it's definitely a bold take, but Baylor should not be a 3 seed. They have 10 losses, no conference championship. I don't really know what the committee was thinking there when they put Baylor at the 3. And UC Santa Barbara only has 7 losses, so they are a very strong and proven team. Maybe they were underseeded. We'll find out. I also have one that Aiden mentioned earlier. I have Kennesaw State over Xavier as well. So I have 2 14-3s. You know, I think it's going to be an interesting year. So yeah, those are the 2 big ones that I have.
Those were some very interesting picks from the big dance, and it will certainly be a good one once it starts. But for now, stay breezy and go Rocks.